Do you think there's likely to be a second round of talks in Pakistan anytime soon? And are you optimistic about what may come out of them?
Anderson, I would never say I'm optimistic on anything regarding the Iran file. I am hearing from people in the region that the sense is we're winding our way to another round of talks, to a diplomatic path. And we'll see. That is definitely the sense that's out there. There's a lot of diplomatic work behind the scenes from mediators. The Chinese are leaning on the Iranians, I'm told. Who knows for what's really happening? But I think we are likely to see a second round of talks. But I'm watching two indicators, and I think, separate the signal from the noise and what's being said from day to day. Number one is the ceasefire holding. Right now, yes, I think that's very good. Number two is this blockade of shipping from Iranian ports. Is that working? CENTCOM is very confident that it is. Some of the ship tracker data suggests some are squirting through. We'll have to see. But then the third thing, is Iran going to contest that or not? So right now, they're not. But if they do, then we're back into a conflict phase. So let me just kind of back up, Anderson. Right now, it looks like the diplomatic path is getting some traction. The ceasefire is holding. That's good. And all eyes still on the Strait of Hormuz. Is the U.S. blockade working, keeping that traffic away from the Iranian ports? That's going to really bite the Iranians. And the second part of that mission, though, for CENTCOM is to open the international passage to the Strait to give confidence to shippers to pass through. And that still seems to be not happening. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Keep an eye on the Strait of Hormuz. Is the ceasefire holding? And do we have this second round of talks before the ceasefire expires next week?
Ambassador Sherman, given your expertise in this, you've actually, led these negotiations and that took years of planning and more than 15 months of actual negotiations. What do you make of the status of these negotiations? I'm not sure if that's the right word, or talks about having talks.
So it's good that when the vice president went with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner the first time, he actually brought experts with him. You cannot do this kind of a deal without a team of very seasoned people with a lot of deep expertise, because even if you decide on one element, then you have to figure out how you implement it. Then you have to figure out how you verify it and monitor it and make sure it happens. And if you're trying to do, as the vice president said, a grand bargain, it means you have all of these elements on the table. They fight against each other. It could be that Iran would say, we'll give Hezbollah a little less money, but we want to only suspend enrichment for 2 years. So it all combines. And one of the things I think is quite critical if they go back to the negotiating table, and I hope they do, but not for just 20 hours. It's going to take days, weeks, probably months to get it all done if it's possible. I hope that they realize that nothing should be agreed until everything is agreed. It was the watchword of our negotiation, and it was critical to make sure that we had all of the T's crossed and all the I's dotted.
So just to be clear, nothing agreed until everything is agreed. So no point by point, okay, that's a deal on this subject and now we're going to do this, because it's a jigsaw puzzle that all has to fit together.
Absolutely. It's a jigsaw puzzle that has to all be put together. And one of the problems that I think the Trump administration has had is two things. One, they've wanted at the beginning for Iran to simply capitulate. That's why the president says we've won, we've beaten them, we don't want them to win. But quite frankly, in any negotiation, even with adversaries, even if you find people odious, they have to feel like they got something or you can't get the deal done. So call it winning, call it negotiating, call it giving them something, but there has to be a deal, and a deal means both sides have to get something out of it. And secondly, I think the president has believed he can get this done in one big fix. And that's not how this process works. I wish it did. The last 28 days of the 2015 negotiation, John Kerry spent 19 days in a hotel, nonstop, to get to the final elements of this deal.
Scott, are you optimistic at all? I mean, do you think this is going to lead somewhere?
I'm not very optimistic. I think there's two kind of core questions here. Who benefits from dragging the process out?
Time is on the side of Iranians.
It absolutely is on the side of the Iranians. And the second is which side can endure the most suffering and most pain. And I think clearly the Iranians have proven that as well. This idea that the blockade so ships can't come in, and this is a country that's been, had tens of thousands of bombs dropped on it in the last month. The idea that it's going to somehow, kneel down because of the naval blockade, I think is silly. I think
the idea that this is now an potentially economic pain being inflicted on Iran, we've inflicted military pain on them. That hasn't really worked to cow them or have a regime change that actually results in something. You don't think economic pain is going to do it?
The economy was already in a shambles. That's what led to the demonstrations and the killings in January. I think that the regime. I think if you go back and I think it's important to look at what happened in January. That the regime, there was demonstrations against the regime for 10 days that were largely peaceful. They were metastasizing in size. Finally, the government reached a point where it thought it was going to go down, so they killed 30 to 40,000 people in one weekend. They see their back against the wall, and as Ms. Sherman said, they need to feel like they're getting something out of any sort of negotiated settlement, and they don't have much to give because they could be overthrown by the people, and they don't, they'd be slaughtered.
Yeah, Brett. I mean, this is not a popular government, and obviously there is support there, but there's 93 million people. There's a lot of people with a lot of different opinions. Is this a government that's motivated to really make some sort of a deal, or what would be their major motivation?
I have to say, I largely agree with the thrust of what Scott's saying. I also we have to have some humility. We really don't know what's happening inside Iran, and if we were on this 2 weeks ago, Anderson, and someone had said, we are going to see a ceasefire and then the highest level talks between Iran and the United States since the 1979 revolution, with Ghalibaf meeting face to face with the vice president and with the IRGC there and the entire team from Iran there, I would have said that's highly unlikely to happen, because I did not think the first move of whoever rises to the leadership ranks in Tehran after this conflict would reach out to the great Satan. The one thing that, going back to Khomeini, they said you cannot do. They really just shattered a taboo. So it's fairly extraordinary that happened and that these talks are still ongoing. So I don't know. I agree. It'll take time.
Do you read that as a sign of potential desperation, or we don't know?
So you could read it two ways. You could say they feel so strong that they're coming to show that we have the strength, and we're finally going to meet with you face to face at the most senior level. We've never done it before. Or they're in some trouble, Anderson, and they know it. And we are offering significant sanctions relief, as I understand it, which is something they want, and they can do a violent crackdown, but they also want to, I think, alleviate some of the economic strain in their population. Yeah. So we have some cards to play.
Ambassador, if memory serves me correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the criticisms of President Trump initially against the deal that you were intricately brought about in 2015 was the money's paid, money that Iran got out of it. It sounds like any deal we make now, there's going to be a lot of money involved as well.
There's going to be a lot of money involved, and there's even been some discussion that there would be money that would be given in advance as sort of a sweetener to get a deal done. I think both Brett and Scott are correct. There is economic pain for sure in Iran, but the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, is clearly in charge right now. Yes, they want to make sure that there is a future for their country, but I do think they feel that this is existential for them. They lived through the Iran-Iraq War for 8 years being just hammered, and they stuck with it. They are a culture of resistance. I think they may come to the table, but they're not going to give up the things that they believe are part of their national pride, and that includes, in their view, a right to enrich, in their view, to have a missile program, in their view, to have people in the region, their proxies, help them out. Whether we scale that back, whether we get to a place where we feel there's greater security about their commitment to not having a nuclear weapon, all of those things are important, but it's going to be tough negotiating. And the UAE is in China trying to get China to put pressure on Iran. I'm sure that's happening. The President of the United States is headed to China in May. There's a lot of incentive for him to get this to a better place.
Pride has a seat at the table. Ambassador Sherman, thank you. Brett McGurk, Scott Anderson as well.